Give me a big picture thought on the first game that we saw, Bucks over the Packers, 31-26.
Well, like, all right, first off, I do want to just, like, this the stars aligned. I mean, just like that, what you're talking about right there. Brady, I mean, everything. The way the season shook out, the roller coaster ride. I mean, it's amazing, first off, what they've done. That's amazing. Tom Brady's amazing. He's 10 years in the Super Bowl. That's insane. I mean, I don't even know. You can't even quantify that. That's unreal. And then I do want to just say this, Mike, before I give a big picture of the game. Just like congratulations to Tampa Bay. Seriously. They have a special place in my heart, the Glazier family. They try to do everything right. They're great owners. It's a great football city, so I'm happy to see that. I really am. Big picture.
Hey, Jaworski.
Yeah.
Jaworski.
Yeah.
You're not getting a ring if they win.
I know.
Okay?
I know.
So
I know.
Don't try. It's
No.
too late now.
I just want to picture in like the medical room as like the toughest SOB in franchise history or something like that. That's all I'm asking for. But other than that, big picture of the game, Mike, I think the thing that I'll always come back to, the Buccaneers, the size, the physicality of the game, all the big hits, all the must-win type moments, Tampa won throughout the game on both sides of the ball. And I know we're going to unpack them all, but there was many crazy situations. And I think my big picture in the game would be this, Mike. Really, it comes down to the two quarterbacks. We know this. It's one quarterback who's got to play perfect for his team to win, and another quarterback, it's a microcosm of these guys' careers. Doesn't have to play perfect, doesn't even necessarily have to play great or good, and they can still win. So that jumps out to me as a big picture thought of the game as well.
And one coach who trusts his quarterback to get it done
Apparently.
when the opportunity is there, and another one who apparently does not, and that's going to be one of the big themes of the day and one of the things to unpack. Let's flip it over to the late game. Big picture takeaway from we're talking Bucks Packers. We'll talk about Chiefs Bills later.
All right.
And there is so much to ponder here, and it could have been one of the great playoff comebacks of all time. Not quite Bills Oilers from 28 years ago, but down 18 points early third quarter when it felt like it was over, it was done. That's when it all started to swing Green Bay's way. And I would have bet at some point, late third quarter, early fourth quarter, they're going to pull it off. It's over. The Bucs had their chance. That's it. You can't have interceptions on 3 straight possessions, Tom Brady, and expect to fend off this Packers team and Aaron Rodgers. And that what makes to me the ability of the Buccaneers to hold on and win the game even more impressive, because they had to hold on with everything they had because Brady all of a sudden wasn't getting it done for him. The defense had to step up and preserve what ultimately was a 5-point victory.
Well, I think that's exactly what it was, and that's why they're going to the Super Bowl. They're a complete team. That they don't rely on one guy all the time, and there's another team that has to rely on one guy to really put pressure on the other team. It's their biggest piece in the chess game. But Tampa, yes. Their defense was the difference in the football game yesterday. I mean, of course, we know about the interception, but just so many big moments. There, like you're talking about, the game's 28-23. The Packers got the ball 2 times with a chance to go take the lead. And, within that, couldn't do it. And the big reason was because of that Buccaneers defensive line. They all day were all over Rodgers, pressuring him, whether it was just a 4-man rush or a 5-man rush. They won that battle up there, and it was just a great total team win for Tampa Bay altogether.
It started early on the first drive. They sacked Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
Ended up with 5 sacks, 3 for Shaq Barrett, 2 for Jason Pierre-Paul. And you typically don't see Aaron Rodgers get knocked around like that. But it did come down to a critical decision that followed a critical third down play when it was 31-23.
Yeah.
The Packers driving. They had the ball 3rd and 8, and it was a pass thrown by Aaron Rodgers to Devontae Adams at a time when many thought he could have run. But one of the reasons he didn't run is he thought they had 2 downs, not 1 down to score. He thought they were going to go for the touchdown, not the field goal. Let's hear a mashup of some of the folks who were on the field and or a key person on the sideline, and Matt LaFleur, making the decision to call for the field goal unit when it was 31-23, 4th and 8, and the Packers could have scored with a 2-pointer and forced overtime. Here they are.
I was pretty surprised just based on how the game went. I mean, I felt like there was multiple plays throughout the course of the game that they were letting us play. Man, I haven't seen a replay, but from what I was told, there was a tug there. Whether the the ball was catchable or not. I mean, I think that always goes into it, but bottom line, the official made the call, and that's what it is.
That's not the right sound. But that's okay.
Well,
we'll get there.
well, no.
We'll get there. That's about the controversial pass interference.
Let's
We'll
go
talk about that later.
Yeah.
Let's get back to what we're talking about. The decision to kick the field goal instead of going for the touchdown on 4th and goal. Here it is.
Yeah.
It was just the circumstances of having 3 shots and coming away with no yards, and knowing that you not only need the touchdown, but you'd need the 2-point. So the way I was looking at it was we essentially had 4 timeouts with the 2-minute warning. And, we knew we needed to get a stop. And I thought we were going to have a stop there at the end, but, we got called for the PI. And it didn't work out. So I think anytime something doesn't work out, do you regret it? Sure. But we're always going to be process driven here. And the way our defense was battling, the way our defense was playing, we felt like it was the right decision to do. And it just didn't work out.
I understand the thinking above 2 minutes with all of our timeouts, but yeah, that wasn't my decision.
I couldn't believe it, honestly, because there's no guarantee that they're going to make it back down there again. Even if they was on 4th down, they might as well try. But I know offense they've been amazing in 4-minute offense this year, not giving the team back the ball. So I had all the utmost confidence in them. But I know if he could take it back, he probably wouldn't do that next time. But I appreciate it. Offense did their job. We did our job, and we came out with the win.
See, this is where the rubber meets the road when we look at things from an analytical standpoint. The idea that there were the 3 timeouts plus the 2-minute warning. The idea that all we needed was a stop. We're down 31-26. We get the ball back. We go down and have a game-winning touchdown. Don't need a 2-point conversion to force overtime. I understand all that in the abstract. If we're having the philosophical conversation about how to manage a game, I understand it. Don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand it.
Yeah, right.
What causes me to make my final decision is understanding that, wait, who do I have on 4th and goal from the 8? I have Aaron Rodgers. Okay, check mark in favor of going for it. And who's on the other team?
That's right.
If we kick the field goal and give them the ball and all they need is a first down or 2, it's Tom Brady. Okay, another check mark. I'm going for it on 4th and goal. I'm winning the game with the ball in my guys' hands and not trying to win the game with the ball in their guys' hands. When it's the battle of GOATs, right? When it's the 2 best who ever played, that's the easy decision. And I think that's one of the reasons why, and Aaron Rodgers chose his words very carefully, and he said more about the play than just what we played.
Right.
Look, he's being a good soldier here. It's not his decision, but he said the reason he threw the ball on 3rd and goal is he thought he had another play.
Right.
He didn't even consider the possibility. At that point in the game, with a little over 2 minutes left, that they were going to kick a field goal down 8 points. Who does that, especially with those 2 quarterbacks involved? Well, we know who does. Matt LaFleur does.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're right. I mean, that was the game. I mean, hey, I know that the offense had been somewhat successful in the second half, but it, had not been successful really for a long period of time until that drive right there to get them down there in that position. There's no guarantee. Like Shaq Barrett just said, there's no guarantee they're going to get the ball back and drive down again. I mean, we saw a lot of stale parts of the game for that Green Bay offense. But ultimately, Mike, I think it just comes down to what you said. It's 4th and 8. You're there for one reason, and he said it later on in a press conference. The heart and soul of our team is Aaron Rodgers. You're there for one reason. You're in that game for one reason. You go down swinging with your best punch. That's what you do. He's your man, okay? We can talk about him scrambling or shouldn't have run on 3rd down, whatever. We'll talk about that in a second. But either way, that's my thought there, and I think you laid it out perfectly. Yes, we have Aaron Rodgers. Check. Wait. They have another guy who, hold on, oh, that's right, has been closing games out for 20 years. Let's check and not see that happen. That's where, it's wrong. That's where it's wrong. There's no other way to say it. It's not egregiously wrong. The things and the way he explained it, he is correct. The defense was playing well and all of those things. I mean, there's nothing wrong with what he said, but I think at the end of the day, it's still a decision that he's going to look back and go, man, I should have gave my best player the ball and the biggest play of the game and see if he could have won the game or at least tied the game for us.
Aaron Rodgers has an 80% success rate in the red zone, one of the best of all time. And Rodgers at one point explained, because they asked him, because we've seen, and I think back to the Baltimore-Seattle game from last year when Lamar Jackson kind of asserted himself, and it was a 4th down. And remember, he's doing this to John Harbaugh and the field goal team. And they asked Aaron Rodgers about it, and he was like, well, I look over and I see these 5 big guys coming out, and there's too many things happening mechanically. And look, I know Aaron Rodgers is your guy, and I agree with you. He's one of the greats of all time. But I think about that moment. Like, is that a moment where you assert yourself if you're one of the all-time greats? Does Tom Brady say, get to the sideline? Does Peyton Manning say, get to the sideline? That was an opportunity for Aaron Rodgers to assert himself, and he didn't. He's a good soldier. He stays within the lines, but I'm not faulting him for not doing it because it's difficult to do it. It's difficult to do it, but we've seen guys do that.
We have, and we've seen him do it. I think he explained it just the right way, though. Like, I think if he sees the head coach over there kind of hemming and hawing, right? Like, oh, I don't know what to do. He's going to go, come on, go for it. Are you crazy? But he throws the pass. He looks back over, and the field goal unit's running on the field, right? So now they're not going to be like, hey, hold on, and then waste a timeout and do all that stuff. So that's where he was stuck. I think he was giving you a total honest answer there. And we're talking about a guy who, come on. I mean, all we've talked about his whole career is he always says what he wants. He always tells them what he wants to do. It's all about Aaron Rodgers. So I think he would have done that if I think the situation wasn't right and he felt like it was a little unorganized and it wouldn't be right for him to say, hold on, wait, leave me out here. You guys run back off. I think it was just discombobulated that way.
They still had 3 timeouts and the 2-minute warning if they had burned one to get it right in that moment. And look, we haven't talked about this yet, but if you go for it and you don't make it, the Buccaneers are pinned.
They're backed up
inside the 10. You got a better chance of getting the ball back in that setting. Are they going to take chances? And maybe they will. Maybe that's what Matt LaFleur is thinking. We're going to give these guys the ball on the 8-yard line, and they're just going to – but see, that same logic applies if you kick off to them. Like, they're still going to no risk it, no biscuit. They're still going to throw it on 3rd down. They're still going to try to deliver the dagger, whether they have the ball on the 8, up 8, or on the 25, up 5. It doesn't matter. They're still going to be who they are, and that needs to get factored into it. I would love to be able to peel back the curtain and understand how the decision was made, how much thought was put into it, how much planning was put into it, who was talking to Matt LaFleur about this. Because I don't even know. I haven't, from an analytics standpoint, you could make the argument that it's you go for it. I mean, how many times? It seems like any time we fall back on an analytics-based argument, it is you go for it on 4th down, right? That's it. Well, analytics
I've
go
never
for it.
heard otherwise. I've never heard otherwise. That's my problem with it. I've never heard you don't go for it. I've never.
But in this case, I understand why you wouldn't if their quarterback was Jameis Winston, not Tom Brady. I understand it completely. But it's Tom Brady. We had seen him convert 3rd downs all day long. He was converting 3rd down after he thrives in that moment. So you're going to take a guy who has played now 44 postseason games, 44 single elimination games in his career.
Yeah.
More games than most players ever get in the NFL when you look at the full scope of the guys drafted and signed as free agents. Guys don't play in 44 games in the regular season. He's played in 44 in the postseason. He lives for that moment. He loves that moment. You're giving him the ball back up 5. And so you get 10 timeouts. Who cares?
Well, I hear you, Mike. And you're laying it out here perfectly too, because where I just want to go, that kind of talks to what Matt LaFleur's logic was as well. Like, I want to be like, no, Matt, you guys got 3 turnovers in a row. It wasn't like dominant defense. It was just 3 bad throws by Tom Brady. They were open. They were moving the ball. If he throws the ball down the middle to Mike Evans, he's wide open. They're going to have the ball at the 4-yard line. They're going to score a touchdown. The game's going to be over. So they weren't just like, oh, look they're stopping him. Nobody's open. Come on. Brady fell down and then off his back foot and threw a ball when nobody touched him for an interception. He missed Mike Evans down the middle, wide open. It barely went off his fingertips. That speaks to what you're saying too, nonetheless, that the defense wasn't that dominant and that Brady was still going to be able to make the play when he needed to and wanted to. He wasn't going to be rattled by the 3 interceptions. To me, Mike, that's the big thing of the game. We saw one team that from the get-go was throwing their body around, physical, was shining under the bright lights of the NFC Championship game. We're going, we're attacking, and we had another team that was a little bit hesitant. I don't know what else to say. Bruce Arians' team, the culture around it is more for these type of football games than we're seeing, the Matt LaFleur, hey, we have to execute perfectly and Aaron Rodgers has to execute perfectly or we can't win the football game type attitude. And the 49ers and the Buccaneers 2 years in a row showed you, no, this game's about emotion and physicality, and it just can't be about one guy having to play perfect to win your game. There's got to be more to it. And I think that's one thing to just look at for the overall mantra of the game that the Buccaneers brought to it that the Packers didn't have.
And that's a great point. No risk it, no biscuit may not get you there. But if you get there,
they're loose.
No risk
They're
it,
ready.
no biscuit is going to help you tremendously.
Right. Yeah, I do believe so. There's certain things about certain coaches where, yeah, he's just fearless. What did he say the identity of his team was last week? We're some bad mofos or whatever the hell he was. That's all it was. Yeah, great. We're going to go to Green Bay. We're going to kick their butt. They don't doubt that. And so there is something to that and a toughness and everything about the Buccaneers yesterday that was very impressive. And, of course, that goes to Bruce Arians and Brady and everybody involved.
And Tom Brady did have 3 interceptions. They all were his fault. You may not have gleaned that from watching the game. They all were his fault. We're allowed to say that. He's not going to come to your house and beat you up.
Right.
He's not going to send you a nasty text message. And if he does, you respond by saying, hey, Tom, they were your fault. You won the game. Congratulations. All 3 of those interceptions were your fault. The first one was sailed long enough for Adrian Amos to run over and pick it off. There wasn't even double coverage. He didn't throw into double coverage. It became double coverage because the ball was sailed for so long. The second one was a high ball to Mike Evans that he tried to catch. It looked like it was his fault. It was tipped. It was intercepted. And the third one was Darnell Savage on a blitz. And Tom Brady just fired it up into the air, and he hung it up long enough for Jair Alexander to make a play on the ball, and Mike Evans was wondering where the hell's the footballs. They were all his fault. He's had 4 playoff games now with 3 interceptions, and he's 3-1 in those games where he's thrown 3 interceptions, which tells you it helps to have a good team around you,
right,
and it helps to forget about it. That's the key.
Yep.
You forget about it. And so, Matt LaFleur may have thought, hey, we're going to get interception number 4. Well, Brady's never thrown 4 interceptions in a playoff game. And no, season's on the line, game's on the line,
right,
legacy's on the line. And even though he didn't throw a completed pass, he drew the pass interference penalty. We played the sound earlier of Matt LaFleur talking about the call. And look, here's the problem most people have, because I don't think there's any dispute that there was pass interference. Anytime you see, as somebody pointed out on Twitter, a large jersey become an XL by virtue of the tug on Tyler Johnson as he tried to get to the football, that's pass interference. The argument is they weren't calling the game tight all game long. Why are they throwing the flag in the moment where, in past years we'd say this is where you tuck the flag deeper in the pocket. Look at that. Look at that jersey. No, that's not pass interference. But, Chris, what do you say to the argument that they'd been letting things go all day? They should have let it go in that spot.
Well, I mean, listen, they did let it go all day. It's one of my things and my pet peeves with playoff football. All of a sudden, the refereeing style changes, and now offenses don't know what to expect because they're like, wait, well, all of a sudden we're allowed to hold and hit every play? We weren't allowed to do this for 17 weeks. So that's a confusing thing regardless. But regardless of that, the game, I appreciate that they let people play and do those things. My thought here, Mike, is that was a hair too egregious just to tuck your flag away. Again, if it was a little just holding and grabbing and maybe a little pull down of the shoulder and things like that, okay, yeah, that's been going on all game long. There's no doubt. And there was plenty of plays where we could have called pass interference. But this, to me, in that moment, just goes above and beyond the little bit of, hand fighting, pulling, pushing, touching, that type of stuff. This is a true, wait, I've pulled you down to slow you down, change the course you're on, and made myself faster in the process as well to make a play on the football. I have no problem with the call. It shouldn't have gotten there to that point anyways, like we've talked about, and Kevin King had a very, very rough day altogether, let alone just that play.
2 more points on the call. One, I don't agree with. I saw someone saying, well, I got a problem with the fact that they waited so long to throw the flag, like they waited to see if the ball was actually caught. Well, who cares? Interference is interference. It doesn't matter how long it takes you to dig the flag out of your pocket and throw it. If you think it's interference, it's interference.
That's
There's no
right.
statute of limitations
Yep.
other than, the next play. I think you probably have to throw the flag before the next play. And there is a point where it becomes painfully awkward if you wait 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds, but I don't have a problem with that. What about the issue, and Aaron Rodgers talked about this in expressing his opinion it was a bad call. He thought the ball was uncatchable. Now, sometimes uncatchable is skewed by the fact that the player was impaired from his ability to try to catch it. So
Right.
it makes it look uncatchable.
Right.
Do you think it was uncatchable?
I'd like to watch it again and really get a look out of it like a coach's film. It was close to that. It was close. I understand what they're arguing, but at the same time, he's throwing a touch ball where he thinks a guy's running in one certain direction and, like you just said, is pulled in another direction altogether to where he can't adjust his body or even get close to make it look like catchable. That's really the only way to say it. So I don't know yet. I'd like to watch it a few more times, but I felt like just in real time that it was the right call. And when I saw the replay, I went, man, they haven't been calling this all day, but this is too egregious just to let go. With a guy's arm totally extended, and then all he can barely do is grab the guy's T-shirt that's hanging out underneath his jersey, and now that's extended another few feet. Like, come on, that's pass interference, and that was as bad as any we saw all day. That wasn't just the normal things we saw let go throughout the game.
And look, I don't want to try to rewrite the rule book on the fly, but I feel like there's a gap there. When it is uncatchable, and it's not pass interference, but you have an egregious hold like that. I know that holding goes off once the ball's in the air, and in theory, if the ball's uncatchable, you can hold, grab, tug, pull the guy down, lay him out. It doesn't matter. I mean, you can't hit him improperly because he's defenseless, but if it's uncatchable, all bets are off. I just feel like something like that, like there should be a rule against it even if it's uncatchable, because you clearly held the guy. You clearly restricted his movement at a time when he's trying to go get the football. But regardless, it was pass interference. The drive extended. The Buccaneers were able to put the game away. And now Tom Brady becomes the 4th quarterback to reach a Super Bowl with multiple teams. And he's going to get a chance to win a 7th and a 1st with an NFC team. People were making all kind of observations last night, including that Brady has won as many NFC championships as Aaron Rodgers. But it's the kind of stuff you're going to hear in the aftermath of something like this. And you have to wonder, number one, how Rodgers is feeling. We're going to talk about that coming up. But how is Brady feeling right now? When you consider, he made the bet. Now, he picked the destination. It was the perfect spot for him. If he'd have stayed in New England, maybe they don't make the playoffs, right? And if they do, they're not going to get very far. They're not playing the Chiefs yesterday if they make the playoffs. They don't have enough people around him. He found a spot where he had enough around him, offensive and defensive, to get to where he wanted to be.
That's
period.
Right.
And, it was all set up that way. We were looking at destinations, and when you start thinking about the Buccaneers last March, it's like, hey, this makes a ton of sense.
Yep.
And as unthinkable as it is, it's still weird to see his face in front of that logo. I still want to say Patriots when I think of Tom Brady, but after we see him play in a Super Bowl, that may finally put that to rest.
Yeah, well, I mean, he'll always be the Patriots' Tom Brady. There's no doubt about that. But this is unreal. I mean, again, to go to 2 Super Bowls with 2 different franchises is an enormous feat in itself. It really is. Let alone, you've gone to 9 Super Bowls with one other, and now here's one other team. You squash a lot of the talk of, like, it was only Belichick, which, of course, we know it wasn't only Belichick. Yeah, maybe Belichick deserves more of the credit, but Brady's right. Brady was amazing. There's nothing more to be said about that. He is without a doubt like the most accomplished quarterback we've ever seen. We've never seen anybody do it as good as he has, consistently as good, as long as he has. There's no arguing that. Yeah, you're not going to hear me say he's the greatest quarterback of all time just because he has the most accomplishments. Sorry. No, I'm not, yesterday, like we talked about, is a microcosm of 2 guys' careers that kind of just says it all. It just says it all. One guy's got to play perfect. The other guy always has had the ability to go, it's not all on me. I got other guys that can help me. And that's what stinks for Aaron Rodgers. I felt about as bad for a professional sports athlete last night, Mike, for Aaron Rodgers, as I have in a long, long time for any sports athlete. I really have, because I know the chatter that's going to be around him. You laid it out there, But the reality is he's played in one NFC Championship game where his team was the better team on the field. And a lot of these NFC Championship games, the year they lose to Atlanta, they're a 6-10, 7-9 football team. They have Aaron Rodgers. They're great. He can't catch the onside kicks. It's just unfortunate. It's the way it is, and I think he's devastated, and he should be. And all I kept thinking about, sorry, while we're on this, just last thing, I just kept thinking, man, what if one of those first-round picks was a corner or or a defensive tackle or of something that might have helped in the game yesterday?
A first-round pick and a fourth-round pick last year devoted to the eventual replacement of Aaron Rodgers. And by the NFC Championship game, they would have been going into game number 19. They're not rookies anymore. Now, they could have been injured. They could have not been good. But still, you don't know. You traded in those lottery tickets for a guy who contributes nothing to the game. Now, you filibustered there for a little bit.
Sorry.
And it's not going to lead me past the point I want to make. I don't know whether it's a Simmsism or we need to come up with a different word, because sports athlete, is there another kind of athlete that I'm not aware of?
I don't even know.
You said it like 2 or 3 times.
I don't even know.
Sports athlete.
I don't know
Okay.
why I said it. I don't know. It's
Sims
Monday
Dundancy.
morning and I'm foggy. Sorry.
Can we call it a Sims Dundancy?
Sure,
I don't know.
sure.
We have a new category of the dictionary. But anyway, look, those are all fair points for us to raise, and those thoughts surely have rattled around in the very large and able and complicated brain of Aaron Rodgers since late April when that trade was made. A 1 and a 4 to move up to get Jordan Love, and that 1 and a 4 could have come in handy yesterday for the Green Bay Packers. Offensive, defensive, whatever the case may be. And, you think about what a comeback it was. And the Packers were on the other end of one of those 6 years ago in Seattle.
Yeah.
When everything was going Green Bay's way, and Seattle came back and they took it. Now, it was in overtime, but the mentality was throw it to the end zone. Be aggressive. And I think that may be what sticks in Aaron Rodgers' craw, because when you consider the background before the decision to kick the field goal on 4th down instead of go for the touchdown, and it started not just when the fumble happened in the early third quarter that made it 28-10 and set the stage for the recovery by the Packers. It was the no risk it, no biscuit, the ultimate Bruce Arians, screw it, let's throw it deep to Scotty Miller, who
We haven't
ran
even hit
past
on that yet. Yeah.
Kevin King.
Right.
And that was the moment where it felt like the Hakeem Nicks Hail Mary from the 2011
Right.
divisional round game, where it's like, it's just not Green Bay's day. It's just not Green Bay's day. It's going to be a big Buccaneers win. The question is, how many are they going to win by? And they got the look that they liked. They called the play.
What
They
is
liked
this
the
look? What is the look?
the look
It's
is
literally like, hey, run by us and try to score a touchdown here, guys.
Well,
Like
there's
what-
one safety. There's
Yeah,
one safety.
right.
I mean, at least it's not Greg Williams blitz everybody, but it seems like it's something that comes out of the Greg Williams loser mentality, which is, let's just let the other team run right by us, which is what they ultimately did.
Well, why isn't there 2 safeties back? I don't.
Well, exactly.
I don't.
Why aren't there
understand.
3?
Well,
they
exactly.
They didn't want to give up the quick out. See, this is the perfect spot to throw deep, because they're thinking you're going to try to get another 10 yards
Right.
to get a closer field goal. They're not thinking Scotty Miller's going to run by Kevin King, and score a touchdown.
Well,
they're not thinking that. Apparently,
I don't know
obviously
why.
they
I
weren't.
mean, Kevin King's been run by the whole first half. The whole first half they ran by him. The whole first drive was just Kevin King atrocities. There was already a dropped in your hands interception by the secondary at that point. They weren't playing good. Why? Well, yeah, we know they want to get, 5 yards more for the field goal, whatever. If memory serves me correct, they did have 1 timeout still at that point, right? 2, right, Mike? I believe they did. So is that correct? Did I hear you? No, they out?
Yeah, they're out of timeout.
Okay.
That made it even more of a risk it for the biscuit.
It actually makes it even dumber for Green Bay. Like, Why would you not be playing a 2-safety defense and be protecting the sideline then? Why? That makes absolutely no sense. Why would you let them do that? That to me, I mean, we've hit on it. That was just, again, another moment of one team aggressive, shining under the lights, playing loose. We're coming here to win the game and not coming here to not lose it. That was the difference, and that was the mentality and the physicality of the Buccaneers compared to Green Bay all day yesterday.
And I inadvertently mentioned Kenny King earlier. You may remember him as the guy who held for 16 years the record for the longest touchdown catch in Super Bowl history, an 80-yarder for the Raiders against the Eagles in Super Bowl 15, a record that was broken by Brett Favre to Antonio Freeman, 81 yards in Super Bowl 31. That's a delayed recovery on my part, but I meant to say Kevin, I said Kenny, but I remembered Kenny as a star for the Raiders in that Super Bowl win. So Scotty Miller, a guy who it seems like every game he's in, number one, he barely plays, and number two, he's making a long catch with this kind of fetal position. Like, you never see him lay out, you never see him jump up, you never see him extend his arms. It's this kind of crouching fetal, ball comes in and he catches it and rolls, and he's behind somebody every time he does it, and it's always more than 25 yards down the field. Are they going to cover this guy at some point? I would suggest that the Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo begin planning now for the inevitable moment when Scotty Miller's going to run behind somebody and catch a 40-yard pass in 13 days.
We hit on it last week. We said, we didn't think there was going to be a drop-off between him and Antonio Brown, right? We said, I'm not sure if Antonio Brown can run a go route and run like Scotty Miller. I mean, it's debatable. As you saw, he can legitimately go. But, still, the point is, and I mean, I'm even more like astounded now that I've processed and wait. There's no timeouts, right? Well, that defense is a total mismanagement of a situation there. That makes no sense at all. If they have no timeouts, why are we protecting the middle of the field with a middle safety and two linebackers in the middle? Like you said, have 3 safeties deep. Play really deep. Okay. You can challenge the out routes and stop those things. If they throw a ball inbounds, the half is over. I mean, it's over. They played a defense to allow them to throw the out route or the go route. They actually said, here, wait, did you guys want to stop the clock? We'll play a defense to let you stop it. That's what they did. Crazy. Mistakes like that all day with Green Bay. It's like,
do you think
I don't know.
Do you think they were trying to bait them into throwing it deep and not take the out route, thinking they wouldn't complete the deep pass?
Maybe. I don't know. You're right. Maybe they were thinking, they'll be aggressive. They'll take a shot, and we'll get out of here, and, they'll have no time in the clock, or they'll have to kick a 57-yard field goal. Maybe. But, man, the way that secondary played, like to what you mentioned with all the third down conversions and the way Kevin King looked at that point, I just wouldn't have trusted any of that aspect of my football team at that point.
Yeah, look, it was an amazing moment. And it made, as I mentioned earlier, what the Packers did to get it down to 8 points even more impressive. And when you – God, look, Matt LaFleur is a great coach. It doesn't diminish what he's accomplished.
Right.
But it's hard not to be upset as a football fan because that decision deprived all of us of what could have been one hell of a moment. They score on that play. They have the 2-point conversion. They score on that. And then we're 31-all heading to overtime in the NFC Championship. Are you kidding me? After an 18-point deficit? Are you kidding me? And it's not quite as bad as what the Seahawks had to overcome from Super Bowl 49, but I think Matt LaFleur is going to have some work to do because I think as time goes by, it's going to be one of those things where today, tomorrow, the next day, guys start reflecting, thinking they're going to get more upset about it.
Right, they are. They're going to look at it in a lot of ways, and not to take anything away from Tampa, they certainly made a lot of their own luck and made a lot of big plays, and with the tougher physical team out there. But man, Green Bay, as we know, it's a sport that you always self-reflect. They're going to look back at it and go, "Wow, did we blow it in a lot of big moments during that football game?"
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.